Do you notice anything different about my Windows desktop? Anything odd? It might be hard to spot. In fact, I'd go so far to say is that it's practically impossible to spot with just your eyes alone. Also, hi, I'm back in a hotel room again. A lot of travel these days. But here's the kicker. The recycle bin on my desktop is not the real recycle bin. In fact, if I take a look at the properties, this is a .scf file, or a file explorer command file that can do some interesting things. If I were to open this up in Notepad, say I fire that up, and then I try to browse, just open up on my desktop of all places, setting this to all files so I can get the file extension .scf, let me open up my recycle bin, so to speak, and this is it. It's just simple plain text, and that is the structure for a scf or shell command file. And there's a peculiar trick here because look, it doesn't show its file extension. If I were to create just a simple new text document on my desktop, but if I were to toggle some of the Windows Explorer settings where I will naturally view file name extensions, all of these will include their .zip extension, and my new text document .text will show that .text extension. However, a .scf file will never show its file extension no matter what settings you might have. I think that's pretty neat because you might be able to hide anything you can do with the file. The question is then, what can we do with this kind of file? Let me go clean up my temporary new text document.txt. I'll right-click to delete this, but note it's not going into my recycle bin icon because that is completely faked. It's just this .scf file with this interesting syntax. It looks like kind of a .ini configuration file where you'll define these different sections, and command, I've always seen that set to just the number, the integer 2. The icon file, we could choose really anything that we'd like, but if I actually remove the icon and then save it, well, you'll note, okay, it's going to change to anything else. I could manipulate this to just be Explorer and see if that will display with a .exe extension to denote that's in the path of the system and environment variables. We could just as easily use calc.exe or notepad.exe or anything else we might like out of the DLLs that you saw me just reference, the imageres.exe or the DLL, imageres.dll. You could do the very same with shell32.dll, and pull anything interesting we might like out of that with any of the ordinals like .2, .3, or commas in this case. Ooh, we could even make it look like a folder. A lot of good ideas with that. If you'd like to just sort of play around and take a look at some of the different icons you could use, this is an awesome utility from Nersoft. The icons extractor, you could just simply download it and fire it up. Hey, is there anything that you might want to pull out of a specific executable? I can run that icons extractor program here, and we could choose whatever DLL or executable we'd like, and then pull down all of the icons that we could explore and choose one for maybe a social engineering ploy or some other ethical hacking, penetration testing, cool tradecraft. Oftentimes these numbers in the ordinal export for whatever icon really kind of depends on the version of Windows that you're using. Right now I'm in a Windows 10 virtual machine, and I've seen 50 from imageres.dll will get me the recycle bit. But again, you might be more curious, okay, what can we do with this command here? Not strictly the number 2 or an integer, but are there any things we could actually invoke? Could we start a program or an application, do some living off the land tricks? But unfortunately, no. I think the only capability that I've come across is using toggle desktop, which if I double click on recycle bin, it literally just toggles whether or not windows are visible, or minimizes everything, or maximizes and bring them all back up to the front. I think there's some other stuff you could do if you had like an IE section and maybe you went to like channels, but I've never seen that actually being used, and I think that's even removed from Internet Explorer, so that's not really helpful or doing anything. But you might have an interesting thought here. If we could manipulate the icon file or the path where it's pulled from, could we point that at a remote resource? Grab an icon from somewhere else and maybe do something shady along the way. Think of a UNC path or like an SMB path, hey, server message block or network file share. Normally we could indicate that with 2 backslashes and go to some whatever attackerhost.com, maybe /share, and then any file and whatever extension you might like here. Now you'll notice the icon changed, and I'm curious, did it actually go to this attacker host that we could potentially control? I've seen this work super duper well in like Windows 7, Windows 8, and some of those older renditions, but I've seen this work most reliably in more modern versions of Windows with double quotes surrounding it and actually using 2 forward slashes. I've seen this work when I use forward slashes on Windows 10 and Windows 11, and let's go see if we could actually get a connection or something that will pull back, maybe even login credentials when it's making this SMB request. With that as an idea, I'll go ahead and log into my Kali Linux virtual machine to act as the attacker, put my hacker hat on, and I'm going to open up a terminal with Control-Alt-T. I'll full screen this with F11 and zoom in a little bit because I want to run Responder. Now, Responder is one of those tools where it will wait and listen and just serve out on as many different ports as it can to see if it gets any intermediary connections, and then potentially steal all the valuable juicy data that could come with it. We'll need to specify an interface that we're going to end up listening on. We'll supply that with TAC capital I, and in this case, just ETH0 or ETH0 is what I want to be listening on. Now I'll hit enter on this, and you'll see a bunch of things started up here, and one of those is an SMB server. With that, we could potentially listen for connections and things that come back when we grab an icon for this .scf file that seemingly has no other purpose but credential stealing. Let me put these side by side and we can see, for the sake of demonstration, hey, this is listening on a local IP address 192.168.88.128. So could I, rather than going to the attackerhost.com, could I go to that IP address, which we know is now listening and waiting to capture any juicy data, in which case I'll go ahead and save this file, and then, okay, you saw it happen right away. Let me full screen that. Take a look. This is the NTLM hash, and really the credential, like the password hash of a network login and some forced authentication just through this single file. We can see the host name, the username that this came from, and then the hash, hexadecimal values that we could give to John the Ripper or Hashcat and potentially crack that password. I gotta say, I think this is really cool. It's just a stupid, simple, standalone file that hides its file extension, and we can customize an icon to maybe something like a recycle bin or a folder or an image file or media song. It doesn't matter, and that could just collect credentials for you. Here, just to finish that off, let's go ahead and grab this hash. Let me nano a forjohn.txt file, or I'll paste all that in, and then I could just use like John the Ripper or Hashcat, as I mentioned, to try and cut through this. By default, that'll just do like its incremental ASCII list, but let me just use a word list for rocku.txt, just the usual, and this is a virtual machine password, so it's going to be pretty simple. Word lists with an S there. Okay, easy, dumb, stupid, yep, that's just my default virtual password, fancy pass. Now let me say, this is nothing new. This is not a novel technique. This has been known for years. There are tons of blogs and write-ups and articles about this, showcasing this exact technique and what you might be able to do when you're staging the syntax for this .scf file. Maybe you add an @ symbol in the front, so it's the very top of a folder, like the downloads if you were to download this from the internet. In this case, they host their own SMB server with Impacket in a nice and easy way, and this is actually kind of convenient because then you can host a real legitimate icon and have it at least render that and display it out. They go through this example, hey, showcasing the cracking hash work that I've just done, and then use this for EvilWinRM to get code execution and gain access to the host thanks to the password and credentials. And again, maybe you don't even need the plain text password if you can't crack it, but you could pass the hash in some scenarios. And of course, that idea of forced authentication, like the SMB share or network files, things that we've been doing, could very well be done with other kinds of files. The red team notes here digs into the .scf example, but even showcases .url or .rtf, rich text format, and XML, maybe field include picture, tons and tons and tons of these. This is a really cool reference just as well. But there is more of a story here talking about this in context with some web browsers like Google Chrome. Now again, bear in mind this is old, this is an article from 2017, but there actually are a couple other breadcrumbs that carry on to like today, this year, 2024. Before we fall down that rabbit hole, please let me say, look, the only way that I can keep getting out free cybersecurity education in videos just like this is with the help of some sponsors. So if I may, please allow me to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Census. Census is the leading internet intelligence platform for threat hunting and attack surface management. They can discover assets 6 times faster than others on the market. As a comprehensive discovery platform that scans and maps the entire internet, Census provides invaluable data for threat hunting and cyber threat intelligence, revealing attacker infrastructure like Cobalt Strike beacons and other command and control frameworks. It excels in discovery, uncovering unknown assets and device information that's critical as organizations grow and conventional scanning falls short. Consider acquisitions or unrecognized cloud environments that typically evade regular scans. But Census continuously identifies and attributes these assets to the rightful owners. Census consistently proves its value in knowing the internet's attack surface for security research and worldwide threat hunting. Some of the world's largest organizations rely on Census to advance their cybersecurity objectives, including the US government and more than 50% of the Fortune 500. Get started with Census with my link below in the video description, jh.live/census. Huge thanks to Census for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to that Bleeping Computer article. Even if it's from so many years ago, there's some interesting nuggets here. And they say, just as we've uncovered, just by accessing a folder containing a malicious SCF file, a user will unwittingly share his computer login credentials with an attacker. And they mention this in the Google Chrome context. We'll drill down into that in just a second, but let me make sure that that's completely clear. Like, this was a zero-click attack chain. Like, we didn't have to, actually double-click or run this program. We just got it happen naturally when Windows Explorer will render and pull down the icon whenever you browse to that folder or it's displayed on your desktop. They're talking about this a little bit more, and that, hey, some of the functionality really is just toggling the show desktop functionality that we might use, and that could be in an SCF file, as we've uncovered, but what's to stop us from just using it with this SMB link? And that's all fine and dandy, but you get to the question, okay, how are we going to get a .scf file on the target in this hacking scenario to begin with? Now, you might just do some social engineering, phish them, and it's downloaded from a web browser. Now, usually Google Chrome and other browsers might add like a .unknown or .download file extension as a suffix to the end of a file that you might download, but there were some oddball conversations being had about these .scf files. Apparently, there was a bug previously, another Chrome report at this link, and that actually dates back to 2021. They discussed this in a very long thread. There's a whole lot of communication here, but they're all acknowledging, okay, yeah, this is probably something that we should fix and clean up. Eventually, that bug was fixed. It was marked as fixed. They cleaned up this report, but there was a little bit more to uncover. Apparently, if you use the drag and drop capability within Google Chrome, you would still fire and trigger the .scf file simply by having it present on your file system. They include some sample code as a proof of concept, so we could go ahead and copy and work with this, and they're using an old version of Chrome here, in which case it was still vulnerable at that, so I'll showcase that just as well. Let me get back to my Kali host. I'll make a directory just temporary for our SCF host. I'll open up Sublime Text for that, and we'll just make an index.html file that we could go ahead and add that syntax into. Now, I want to go ahead and have this relaying to our proof of concept.scf that I host with HTTPS, because Google Chrome will need that to trust and not, hey, have some file issue conversations, on my attacker IP address. Oh, and actually, quick hotfix, I do need to note this is listening on port 8443 in our HTML syntax here. Let me go ahead and create just as well our poc.scf file. That will again include the syntax to call out to our responder or SMB server willing to grab the NTLM hashes. So now with these two files created, I'm just going to host them, and I will need to host them over HTTPS with the certificate that will tell Chrome to ignore, actually, in this case, for the demonstration, because hey, it requires it being a trusted certificate, not even just self-signed. You could do some tricks with like Let's Encrypt or, I don't know, add something to the root CA, but for our demo, look, again, I'm just going to spin up someone self-signed and then tell Chrome, ignore it, just follow along. I found this syntax online, so I'll copy and paste this. Let me get back to Kali, and I'll enter all of this so that now I'll be serving HTTPS on port 8443. Now, I also do want to keep responder running, so let me sudo you know what, we should actually remove its cache. In Kali, that is in user share responder.db, and since that is root owned, I will need to use sudo to remove that, and then again, we can just use sudo responder tac I eth0 and let that fire up. Okay, so we'll have this staged up at the top, and now let's put these side by side and see them in action. Now I do have Google Chrome installed and set up in this Windows 10 virtual machine. However, this is just the latest version that I just happen to have installed, and it's not the vulnerable one that's worth recreating from the proof of concept. I had to find this online, and I found an old version of Chromium, which is still the same engine that it runs on, but we will need to go invoke that manually and ignore certificates. So I'll open up a command prompt, and that should be in my app data. I think it's app data local. Oh no, that's backwards. Environment variable should be local app data. Good. And then let's move into Chromium application. Okay, I see chrome.exe present there. That is what we want to run. Now that old and vulnerable version of Chrome will be invoked with the ignore certificate errors argument. And with that, we should now be able to go access our 192.168.88.128 at that HTTPS port that we're listing on 8443. Well, hit enter here. You saw that get pulled down in the top left there, and now we have this draggable object where I could drag and drop onto a folder or the desktop in this case. Now, can I drag this draggable object onto my desktop, pull down the POC, and then capture all of the hashes and our NTLM credentials here? That's pretty cool. Granted, bear in mind, this is an older version of Chrome, as we were discussing earlier. This rendition and Chromium for the developer build is where we could see that recreated. Currently, in modern versions of Chrome, that just wouldn't work. And the reason I say that is because if we actually go take a look, see how this story ended here, all of those issues that we just saw on Google Chrome's bug trackers actually had a new stable update and release of February of this year, 2024. And that instance, what we were just looking at, I think it was, 414.86208 in the URL there, CVE 2024-1675. Insufficient policy enforcement in downloading. Now, no, that's all in the SCF context, but uninteresting. There is even another interesting tidbit with these .scf files. If they're containing environment variables, it could actually make connection requests over WebDAV, another way and capability to actually retrieve some data, but now you could smuggle in, just like we did earlier with the local app data variable, wrap it in %signs. Say we do the local file demo again, without using Google Chrome, but just going back to our recycle bin.scf file. Now, if I were to spin up and serve a DAV server, I'll supply that with the host listening bound to 0.0.0.0. Let's use port 80 and then no DNS, I think, and then tag D for whatever directory. It doesn't really matter. We can just use temp. Now, once we're spinning that up, we could use exactly the syntax again, now on port 80, to a certain extent, but say, look, I actually want to go grab what might be my username. And we saw this previously, but now that I wrap that into %signs, still going to that endpoint, if I go ahead and save this file, again, just simply being present on the desktop, let me make sure I refresh maybe with an F5. It comes through. Took a little second there, but look at options, local admin, and everything else. So it's just exfiltrating that variable out. We could do the very same with something like computer name or their path or anything else that we might be interested in. And obviously, there are a whole lot of worthwhile environment variables if maybe you're tracking down something in a cloud endpoint, like AWS, I don't know, Azure, lots of options for environment variables. And there you have it, one single file, naturally native to Windows, .scf shell command files that seemingly have no other purpose other than giving you the ability to grab some credentials like these NTLM hashes. And maybe you can't crack that hash, you can't determine the clear text password, but you could then potentially still do some hash the hash work. I think when you combine this with some social engineering schemes like a recycle bin just always present on your desktop, or a folder that you navigate into, or at least is present usually, or even a juicy .text file or image file or media, it could be anything. But simply being there will make the connection and send some of that data to you. With that, I'm done rambling for the hotel room video. Thanks so much for watching, and please, please, please do give some love to our sponsors. Link in the video description, and do all those YouTube algorithm things. Like, comment, subscribe. I'd be super grateful for all your support. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.